Hello and welcome to another video. This is Strong Exploits, and I'm coming at you again with another great introduction to a maybe a not so well known tool out there. But if you ask me and my personal hunch, it will gradually become more known. And it is the Jok3r framework, as in JOK 3R. That's JOK 3R. If you Google JOKER, you may get something else that involves Batman. But if you Google JOK 3R framework, it will pop on up for you. And with this particular video, you see this virtual image here is based off the Debian, right? Debian 10 Buster, if you will. I had chose to go by the recommended installation that the makers of framework came up with, and they highly recommend to install the Jok3r framework using Docker. Docker is definitely bubbling now amongst the Linux and CyberSec community, where it can enable you to just do so many different things um, without compromising disk users. It makes things a little easier with dealing with certain tools and programs. So what exactly is Jok3r framework? It is actually a network and web automated pen testing framework. Um, Automated pen testing is one of those concepts where has been approached. There are certain tools and products that are out there. Now, some are semi-automatic, some are fully automatic, and some that are fully automatic really go into a deep dive and within a network infrastructure and really can show what a threat actor can do. And then in some cases, you have some tools that are semi-automatic, where some things are done automatically, the other portion should be done manually. Jok3r framework is an automated framework, but it is not a do everything type of tool. You should already have some type of insight and a sort of recon heads up on where to point the particular tool, because there's a list of services that are available for the framework to test. So if you already are aware at least of a running service on your target that lines up with the list of services in framework, then framework is applicable for your reconnaissance and information gathering, and it is even capable of exploiting some vulnerabilities. Not all, but just some. And I want you to know that it is a beta version, so the framework is constantly getting updated. If you install via the container, then you can just type a simple command and actually update it that way. So without further ado, let's look into some of the framework here. So in my terminal, you see it says sudo. You must run root privilege um, before you can even start the container. So sudo docker start Jok3r container is my command. When I press enter, so that's for my password. And so now I have the Jok3r container running. And so let's give a little go on some of the listed services. Let's see what this tool is capable of testing. So this tool is based off and built off of Python, so it's provoking Python 3 whenever you execute any of the commands within Jok3r. So if you do not place Python 3 first, it will not recognize the command because it's put in from the library of Python 3. So, and voila, you see, nice little image, nice little logo that they came up with for Jok3r here. So it's version 3.0, it's a beta 2. So as previously said, is updates and things are constantly being pushed towards the framework. And you also can find on GitHub. GitHub has a very detailed memo on how to install the image, how to install the container. Now I will say there is another way to install Jok3r through the framework if you do not want to go the Docker route, which is highly recommended. You can install the framework on a Linux box without the container, without Docker, but when you do it that way, you have to be sure you have all of the packages and dependencies to run the Jok3r framework. And when you update the framework, you have to be sure that all the dependencies and everything that's required to run is updated. Otherwise, it could break. So that's why going through the Docker install way is the preferred way to update Jok3r framework. It's just one simple command you type, and that's pretty much it. So as you can see, the list of services, you have quite a bit of services. Okay, uh, let's look at some of the more common known ones. Nikto is a web application scanner that comes practically available in most pen testing distributions, especially like Backbox and Kali Linux. Nikto comes already available. You see also in the list, we have brute force service, brute forcing 2. Jok3r search, which search for directories, which is a very good thing to do when you're trying to gather information and enumerate to see what is externally facing. If I scroll down, you see Jok3r scripts, which is various standalone scripts. Some of these scripts are Python scripts that have been custom built, custom made for this particular framework. This framework also includes Metasploit, as you can see right there on the screen. The Metasploit framework also comes within the framework. Also, Nmap also comes, and a host of other tools and scripts. So it's a great framework in my opinion because it definitely comes as a customized kit of Python scripts and then tools that most security engineers / pen testers will recognize. So it's a good thing. So here's a list of the services. If I scroll down to where the prompt is, now, well, that's the toolbox. Let's see. So just a little shortcut. That's the toolbox that I just showed you. Let's look at the services that are running. Oop. So those are the tools, and here are the services. So with the tools, when you install Jok3r using the framework, using the Docker way of installing, you also have the option of installing all of the tools that are in the container on your virtual image or host machine. So just to point that little tidbit out. So basically all of the tools that are listed right here, you will be able to install all of these tools on your virtual image or host machine depending on what you may desire to do. I chose not to. I'd rather keep my virtual image clean and just have it on the Docker, but it is available. So you see some of these services. Telnet, it's a common one, is MySQL, HTTP, FTP, MS SQL, Oracle, Postgres, SMB, SMTP. So these are some of these services that that the framework can test. So as mentioned earlier, if you know of a running service on your target that of course matches the available list, then you can use this framework to run the checks against the particular service. Notice in the right hand column there's a number for each row for number of checks. So HTTP has 100 checks, which in other words is going to check for different vulnerabilities with each check. FTP has 7, so it's going to check for perhaps 7 different known vulnerabilities within the FTP range. If you notice here, it says 10 for SMB, so the number of checks must basically imply. I want to show just briefly what a report looks like after running the framework. Now, if you run this framework against a target and you run all of the checks, you can pretty much expect to put aside perhaps 15 to 20 minutes of your time. If you choose one particular service or perhaps two, then it will only run the services that you choose. So if you choose to run full out all the checks against a target, then it will run through all the checks that you see, but it would take a little bit of time. So I'm going to minimize. Let's see here. So my results folder, just to show something that's very cool. So this is the output of the report that's generated from using the framework. And you see on the left hand side some of the checks that came back. It ran Nmap as the initial reconnaissance to see what's going on. I want to point out the default creds. Look up here. As you can see, it says 16 tasks, 75 login tries, 5 tries per task. If I scroll down, and it tried literally these different combinations, it says 5 valid passwords found, one-on-one target successfully completed. So it was able to successfully find matching passwords to the word list that was basically executing the framework using Hydra as one of its built-in tools. Jok3r framework, it chains together different scripts and exploits and auxiliaries from different tools. It chains them together in conjunction with custom scripts. So it's not so much as in a framework that repeats the wheel. It basically chains them together. So if you're testing a web application that you do have the permission to test, I must say that. If you have the permission to test, then you'll be able to test the web application against certain vulnerabilities. And what it would do, it would chain different auxiliaries, recon, and potentially exploitations if they are applicable. So I do like the reporting aspect of the framework. I'm very big on reporting. I feel that reporting is some of the keys and meat behind pen testing. You know, it's not just pin testing the target and leave it alone. The report is really the meat of the situation, because what's the purpose if none of the work is even understood? What's the purpose? So this is an example. You see here it says mission colon vulnerable. Vulnerable is the name of the mission that I assigned. So with Jok3r, you were able to basically assign and create a mission for every test that you do, so that all of the reports and all the results can be located and found in whatever mission you named it. So that way your reports are not just scattered everywhere, but they're in a very organized fashion, and you can find them in whatever directory that you have. And just as an example, X out of here, X out of this folder, go back to the terminal. Ooh. So I go to list. You see reports on the screen. See the reports. And here is basically different folders of the different reports that I assigned to my vulnerable um, name. So my mission was named vulnerable. So each particular folder has a report. So as an example. So you can see now within my folder, there's a report. It's a .html file, and those are the screenshots. So just a general overview of the Jok3r framework, and it's an awesome framework. I really like it. Be safe out there. Happy testing.